Hi, hello. Welcome to the episode of Isaiah's Newsstand. It's your host, Isaiah Edwards. The date is June the 23rd, 2024. Hopefully, this episode finds you well, in good spirits, and high hopes. As for me, I'm doing pretty good. I know, you just heard me, probably. You probably just listened to an episode and you're like, wait, is this the same day? What's going on here? Well, I had a lot of news, and I figured, hey, let me not get backed up on some things I wanted to talk about. And there was some breaking news, even. And I was like, you know what? Hey, let's just lump it in, do another roundup. Why not? Back to back. So, yeah, we can just go ahead and get into it. Obviously, there's not much to really talk about. I took a nice little walk, beat the rain. That was cool. Oh, excuse me. Burping out the top. It's already doing bad. It's already going terrible. No. Let's see. Let's go ahead and do another startup, and we'll go ahead and get into it. Round it up. All right. From the BBC. Deadly attacks on Dagestan synagogue and churches. Gunmen in Russia's North Caucasus Republic of Dagestan have killed 6 police officers in a series of attacks, security officials say. 12 others were also injured in the attacks. A synagogue, 2 churches, and a police checkpoint were targeted in the cities of Derbent and Makachala. A Russian Orthodox priest has also been killed and at least 2 attackers shot dead, state media report, quoting the local interior ministry. The hunt for more gunmen is still ongoing. The assailants have not been identified, but Dagestan has been the scene of Islamist attacks. Footage on social media shows buildings on fire in both cities. In another video, people wearing dark clothes are seen shooting at police cars before a convoy of emergency vehicles, sirens blaring, arrive at the scene in Makachala, Dagestan, Dagestan's largest city. So yeah, this was a very unfortunate scene that unfolded. I don't know. I really don't have too much to add right now because this is kind of like pretty much breaking news. Kind of in these situations, it's crazy how like buildings get assaulted and attacked, but then also, they're also like killing and, hurting people, shooting people. Obviously very unfortunate news to cover. And unfortunately, we're going from this story into Israel and Gaza, that conflict. There was a story I missed, but it's kind of wrapped up into this one, so I figured that we can just kind of go ahead and start from the newest story and work our way into it. From the Associated Press, at least 39 people killed in Israeli strikes across northern Gaza, officials say. At least 39 people were killed by Israeli strikes across northern Gaza on Saturday as rescue workers scrambled to find survivors beneath the rubble, according to Palestinian and hospital officials. Fadim Naim, director of the Al-Hali hospital in Gaza City, told the Associated Press that more than 36 bodies arrived at the hospital. The Palestinian Civil Defense, an emergency group active in Gaza, said its emergency workers were digging for survivors at the site of a strike in Shati refugee camp west of Gaza City, and that they had pulled several dozen bodies from the building hit by an Israeli strike in an eastern neighborhood of Gaza City. Israel said Saturday that its fighter jets struck 2 Hamas military sites in Gaza City, but did not elaborate further. And then this was a story that I was initially going to cover before I saw this one. The deaths come a day after at least 25 people were killed in strikes on tent camps and 50 wounded near the southern city of Rafah. Israel said Saturday that it was continuing to operate in central and southern Gaza and has pushed ahead with its invasion of Rafah, where over 1 million of Palestinians sought refugees from fighting elsewhere. Most have now fled the city, but the United Nations says no place in Gaza is safe and humanitarian conditions are dire as families shelter in tents and cramped apartments without adequate food, water, or medical supplies. kind of before going further and aside, I know that I think they got the jetty kind of back up and running, and I think that they're getting at least a little bit of aid in that way, but it's still very hard to get aid even in from that scenario, because you still have to at some point get it onto a truck and then get it into the cities, and it's just very hard to then even get to the people, and then let alone without it being intercepted. And it's one of those things where even the media I've seen, like, they do say this very plainly, where it's like, yes, looting is a thing, but that looting is understood because of the situation that people are starving. You have a situation where it's pretty much a famine throughout all of Gaza, and people have no food. So if you're a person who does have any kind of arms, this is no longer about faction or whatever the fuck. You're trying to survive, point blank and simple. And even if you don't have arms, you're like, hey man, I'm gonna do whatever the fuck I can so that I can get food for myself and my family. It's just that fucking simple. So you don't see even, Western media even trying to really spin that when that conversation point comes up in these matters. They just say it how that is. I at least can appreciate that. But obviously that's very grim. That's very fucking sad. But kind of going back into the article, a separate Israeli strike Saturday in Lebanon's eastern Bekaa Valley killed a member of the military wing of Al-Jama al-Islamiyah, or the Islamic group, a Sunni Muslim faction closely allied with Hamas, according to the group. The member was the seventh killed by Israeli strikes in Lebanon since the war began. I felt like that was important to mention because I've been definitely hearing more rumblings of like, oh, even though the shit in Gaza hasn't turned down or settled, it's almost like, once again, for Netanyahu, like, and you can just say the administration or whatever, like the powers that be, it just makes sense to keep this war going and keep ratcheting it up. So why not just, once again, kind of going to Lebanon and saying, hey, we can just push here. And, I don't know. I feel like there's this inevitable fear of like saying, hey, we just want to ratchet this up so that maybe we can get more land. I don't know. This is obviously me kind of moving into like speculative territory. But no matter whatever the reason is, whether you say for self-defense or what have you, this is just some shit I don't want to see. I don't think anyone wants to see this shit. I really do think that this is just something for Netanyahu to do because it's something that keeps him in power. And for the right, it also keeps them in power. It is just this symbiotic relationship that kind of keeps going on and on and on. But yeah, I mean, obviously the situation is very grim. It's very unfortunate. But I definitely wanted to get in some time to talk about it. So let's say we did that. Let's go ahead. I think we can go ahead and move on. I feel like hitting the next button here. Yeah, let's do that. From the Associated Press, death toll at Hajj pilgrimage rises to 1,300 amid scorching temperatures. More than 1,300 people died during this year's Hajj pilgrimage in Saudi Arabia as the faithful faced extreme high temperatures at the Islamic holy sites in the Desert Kingdom, Saudi authorities announced Sunday. So yeah, when I initially heard this story, about 500 people were noted as dead, and now they said, like, and even reading that, they're like, the number's probably double that, and they're like, yeah, it's double that plus. Saudi Health Minister Fahd bin Abdurrahman, I'm so sorry. Amaramahanan Al I'm so sorry. Fuck me. Al Jalajal, and I'm not going to try that again, said that 83% of the 1,301 fatalities were unauthorized pilgrims who walked long distances in soaring temperatures to perform the Hajj rituals in and around the holy city of Mecca. Now, I'm not super familiar with obviously the details of this. Like, to me, this is just, okay, you take the pilgrimage and it's a whole religious ritual that you are taking. And in this ritual, there's a series of rituals that you're doing, which are like the pilgrim or the pillars of, I forget what it's fucking called. But essentially, you're doing this and there's a series of activities that you're doing along the way. And you're supposed to do this at least once in your life. And there's some people who do this multiple times in their life. They do it as many times as they can. The religious mandate that's supposed to be, it's like it's within your financial, physical reason or realm to do it. Like if you can't do it, then it's like, okay, it's fine. But if you can, you're supposed to participate this in this ritual at least once. And a big highlight to me is I think there's one part of it where you're supposed to stone the devil, where you're like literally supposed to like throw rocks at a pillar, and that's like to symbolize you like literally stoning the devil with rocks. But imagine doing that when the temperatures are like 49 degrees Celsius, which is like over 100 degrees. I think it's like over 120 degrees. I don't know. I should have the conversion ready, but I don't. But yeah, so people are going out in this heat and they're dying. Like they're trying to do this, and Saudi Arabia is accommodating. Like they're like, hey, at the place we have misters and things like that. We have places where you can get shade. They're trying to do the best they can, but I feel like something that was very eerie to me was the fact that like the whole idea of like having a license, right? That kind of bothered me, and I, in some ways I can understand the counterpoint of like, well, we have this licensing system so that we can kind of monitor and regulate the amount of people who are coming and doing Hajj every year, so that way we can kind of regulate, control the numbers, I guess, quote unquote, make it safe. But I'm thinking, if you can't afford this shit, like it's a pretty expensive fee to get a license to do this shit. It's not cheap. So I've heard stories of people getting scammed because they try to do cheaper options that are not like quote unquote state licensed, and then they wind up getting rope-a-doped and they lose their money. I've heard people literally coming, and so imagine you do just come here, or you say, fuck it, I can't afford it, I can never afford it, I'm just going to try to do Hajj without doing it, or paying that for that license. That potentially can get you jammed up legally, and potentially you could die because you don't have these accommodations that you kind of get with the packages that you can pay for. Like it definitely seems like almost like, to me, when I saw this, and maybe I'm wrong for saying this and thinking this, but it almost felt like the like old school Catholic religions where it's like, hey man, you can just kind of pay to play here. Like if you can afford this shit, hey man, you can definitely get to heaven. You just buy a coupon, bro. You just gotta do this shit. If you do this shit, you're totally solid. And I think I'm definitely simplifying things. I'm definitely wrong for doing that. So I don't want to really like step and talk out of turn. But to boil it all down, because I feel like at this point I'm just in riff mode, it's definitely sad to see people dying in the heat like this. It's just so unfortunate. It adds to the thing that I've kind of been talking about all week, that like the heat is crazy right now. It is definitely hit unbearable ass fucking levels. Definitely do what you can to be careful, and just take care of yourself and the people around you. Like, I know it's corny when you're maybe scrolling around and you see, hey man, make sure you're hydrating yourself. Make sure you're taking care of yourself, man. Cause that's important. Drink your water. And be it whether it's Hajj or you're doing Pride or you're out drinking with your mates, just be careful. All right. Just look after yourself, look after your homies. All right. And I hope for the people who are doing this that you got through it okay. At the end of the day, I know I don't keep up with how the whole procedures of this stuff goes, but just stay safe out there, y'all. I don't know, I'm kind of just riffing in the weeds here a bit now, but we can go ahead and move on to the next story. This episode's pretty grim. I'm sorry, I know it's not. This is definitely more heavy than maybe the last episode, but so it goes. From CNN. 3 dead, 10 wounded in Arkansas grocery store shooting, authorities say. 3 people were killed and 10 wounded in a shooting at a grocery store in Fordyce, Arkansas, the Arkansas State Police said in a news conference Friday. The 10 people wounded include 2 police officers. The suspected shooter, identified by authorities as 44-year-old Travis Eugene Posey, was also wounded and taken into custody. Posey, a resident of New Edinburgh, is expected to be charged with 3 counts of capital murder with additional charges pending, according to the Arkansas State Police news release. Police received calls about an active shooter at Mad Butcher grocery store at around 11:30 a.m. Mike Hagar, the Secretary of Public Safety and Director of Arkansas State Police, said at a news conference. Law enforcement responded immediately and exchanged gunfire with the lone suspect. The injuries of the police officer or to the police officers and the suspect are not considered life-threatening, according to Hagar. He noted the situation is secured, contained. There are no active shooters or no active threats to the community. The remaining civilian injuries range from non-life-threatening to extremely critical, he said. Posey was treated for non-life-threatening injuries after exchanging gunfire with law enforcement, released to ASP custody, and transported to Ouachita County Detention Center, ASP said in a release. It is unclear if Posey has retained legal counsel at this time. I also don't know what the motive was here, like why he did this. If I find out more information there, I'll definitely keep you all posted. It's just another day in America, unfortunately. But, I definitely would be remiss to not talk about a big shooting like this. Yet again, another mass shooting. I think it's like over 230 at this point, just for mass shootings alone. So, the beat goes on. But we have one more thing to cover, and I know I've been talking about hydration, so let me go ahead and drink some water and then some. Hopefully you're drinking some water too. Hopefully you're staying hydrated as well. Ugh. All right. Ooh. Whew. That hit. From Politico. FBI raids home of embattled Oakland Mayor Thao. Federal agents raided the home of Oakland Mayor Thao Thursday morning, according to the Department of Justice. Witnesses and reports from local media. According to witnesses and reports from local media, Thao is facing a recall vote amid a crime wave and municipal fiscal challenges. Now, I feel like if you're a longtime listener of this show, y'all know how I feel about how like towns and cities can like really turn on people, turn in on themselves, really just change ideologies on the spot when like things like crime become a big talking point or like a mind virus for them. Or I feel like another similar thing is immigration, where it's like all of a sudden it's like, hey, I'm a liberal, I'm a progressive ass motherfucker. But the next thing you know, like there's too many people here, or like all of a sudden I feel like, hey, there's just too much crime here. My buddy, there's something happened to them, or like something happened to me, and I'm about to get extremely anecdotal. And now look at all these percentages. Look at how crime is on the rise. Crime is crime. It is always going to happen. And I feel like unless you are actually tackling the systematic things that are creating crime, that are making it so people resort to crime more, it makes it easier of a pipeline for them to go to crime to get what they need to survive, you're always going to have this kind of issue. But hey, they're gonna say, hey, it's this liberal mayor, it's them, they're the problem, or whoever it is. I mean, you almost always wind up turning on the person, no matter what their ideology is, whether it's left or right. I actually don't know too much about Oakland Mayor Thao before, let me not talk out of turn. But yeah, that being said, for some reason they raided her. We don't know if this is related or not. I know I was looking at another story or another article about this. And the lawyer said, hey, technically Tao's name isn't on, like it's not, they weren't looking for information about her, but they were raiding her estate. So I'm like, I don't know if that actually, demystifies anything here or says, hey, that she's not implicated in anything. I don't know. I don't know if this is like some kind of like government witch hunt. I really have no details here. But FBI agents were heard banging on the mayor's door around 6 a.m. Neighbor Maribel Senez told Politico, waking up the quiet street in Oakland's Lincoln Highlands neighborhood. Thao was escorted out of her home by agents, Senez added. Spokesperson Cameron Poland in the FBI's San Francisco office confirmed the borough is conducting a court-authorized law enforcement activity on Maiden Lane, but did not provide further details. So, like, the vagueness of this, too, also adds to, like, the intrigue and, like, what's going on here? Why are y'all looking into this? So, hopefully, I can bring y'all more insight into what's going on here. I really don't know, but I saw this in my list of stories, and I was like, hey, let me go ahead and dig into this and see what's going on. So yeah, that's where we're at. I feel like that was a solid ass little roundup. Hopefully you've enjoyed the little bit of a bonus episode on a Sunday. Let's see here. I will actually go ahead and shill. I might as well. Patreon.com/Isaiah News. Become a newsie today. Dig into some of those extra archive episodes that I have, and give me more motivation to do some more bonus content. Why not? Also, you're just helping out the effort. I always look at Patreon as like a little tip jar. Not that you have to pay me. I'll do this shit for free. That's pretty fucking apparent. But, you know, just think about it. Something to mull over. Free ways to hit me up, IsaiahNews1@gmail.com. And then you can find me on any and all of the socials. Feel free to subscribe to the YouTube. That's another free way to help out, support the effort. You know, it's not newsy behavior, but it's newsy adjacent, you know, so it gets you in there. It's like very initiate apprentice behavior. Why not? But you're helping out the cause all the same. But truly, you know, doing all the cool things, smashing the subscription, hitting the likes, sharing, caring, you just being a great listener, you hanging out and listening to me yap from start to finish. That's like the coolest thing. At the end of the day, you're the real one for that. And I love you for it. So hopefully I see you soon for some more good news. I love you. Bye-bye. Mwah.